Three big updates for you. Number one, the president has authorized National Guard federal authorities to take charge of D.C. to crack down on crime. Number two, the people of D.C. are applauding the president. And number three, MSDNC is angry about this decision from the president. And all of these stories will get to what both sides are saying and give you the bottom line.
I stand in front of you today with a signal to the residents of D.C. and the country that we will not be idle as oppressive structures try to harm our communities and take power. The fight for black liberation and the liberation of all people will not stop no matter our oppression, intimidation, manipulation tactics. We have the right to demand respect, to protect ourselves and protect each other. And as the executive director of Her Wildest Dreams, I want to name white people's civil rights have never been in danger because they are white. The white civil rights represents the desire from the Jim Crow. Full stop. At Her Wildest Dreams, and as we support Free DC, we're fighting against mass incarceration, policing, ICE, violence towards immigrants and Muslims, violence in Palestine, worker exploitation, and more. We're fighting for freedom and safety for all people.
Okay, so what you just watched there was a rally that took place during President Trump's announcement that federal authorities will be taking over Washington, D.C. to finally get crime under control. Now, everybody knows this announcement was coming because we talked about it over the weekend and last week. And so in this video, I'm going to obviously show you what both sides are saying, but I think you're going to find a lot of entertaining reactions. And of course, we're going to do some fact checking as well. Now, that whole charade that they pulled this morning, that's not going to get any results. She could barely even speak or articulate what she was trying to say. I think they should find a better speaker, in my own personal opinion. And that's all I got to say about that first clip. Now, she's obviously discussing what President Trump announced this morning. And in case you missed it, here's the bottom line to what he said. Take a look.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening, and they've done it before. In addition, I'm deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly.
Okay, so before we move any further, please listen to this special message from today's sponsor, Chapter. If you or someone you know is seeking to get on Medicare, then you really need to pay attention here, because there's no question that it's frustrating, in fact, confusing at times. And I actually believe it's on purpose, especially when I heard that the Department of Justice is suing the top 3 brokers in the country for kickbacks. Why? Because they want to steer you into the wrong plans in order to get paid. And here's the bottom line to it. Chapter has unbiased, independent Medicare advisors, salary-based, not looking to waste your time or your money. The call with them is totally free, and they will walk you step by step to find the plan that fits your needs. So call Chapter today. 323-431-5200. Get the answers you need so you can get the Medicare plan you deserve. Again, that number is 323-431-5200. This call could literally save you thousands of dollars. Now, I'm going to tell you guys this up front. If President Trump succeeds in truly bringing crime down in all categories across the board to a record low in D.C., he will go to other cities and do the same thing. And ultimately, the citizens of these cities will gladly welcome it. Unless you truly are so Trump deranged, you'd rather have a city where you can't even walk down the street at night without getting mugged because you hate Trump that much. I mean, think about it for a second, because that's ultimately where this entire debate is going. You'll have people who say this is ridiculous, we don't need this, etc., etc. That means they're choosing crime over safety because they hate the president that much. It's just like immigration. Okay, and now we go to our next clip where the president clearly articulates intelligently what the problem is. Take a look.
Our public safety crisis stems directly from the abject failures of the city's local leadership. The radical left city council adopted no cash bail. By the way, every place in the country where you have no cash bail is a disaster. That's what started the problem in New York, and they don't change it. They don't want to change it. That's what started it in Chicago. I mean, bad politicians started it, bad leadership started it, but that was the one thing that's central, no cash bail. Somebody murders somebody and they're out on no cash bail before the day is out. We're going to end that in Chicago. We're going to change the statute. I spoke with Pam and Todd and everybody. We're going to change the statute, and I'm going to have to get the Republicans to vote because the Democrats are weak on crime, totally weak on crime. They don't know why. They want to stop because they get mugged too. But we're going to change no cash bail. We're going to change the statute and get rid of some of the other things. And we'll count on the Republicans in Congress and Senate to vote. We have the majority.
Yeah, see, this is my thing for people who say that the president is flying off the handle. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's winging it. Guys, does that sound like someone who's winging this? Clearly, the numbers show cashless bail has been a huge problem in our country. No question about it. Why do these Democrat cities adopt that policy? I have no idea. Just doesn't make sense to release someone back into the community who just committed a crime. And then they come back and they say, well, the crime's not that bad. Well, on paper, it's not that bad because you guys have been manipulating the language of these crimes. You guys reclassify crimes, you water it down, and these people go back onto the streets. That's what's happening. Now, there are people every day, they don't have time to look at the numbers. They're working, they're trying to provide for their family. They don't have time to worry about who's on the streets, who's being arrested, etc. They expect the elected leaders to do their job, which is to keep their neighborhood safe, and they have failed in Washington, D.C. Now, speaking of D.C., here is the mayor because she held a press conference in response to the president. Watch this.
This year, crime isn't just down from 2023. It's also down from 2019, before the pandemic, and we're at a 30-year violent crime low. We're not satisfied. We haven't taken our foot off the gas, and we continue to look for ways to make our city safer. We know that access to our democracy is tenuous. That is why you have heard me and many Washingtonians before me advocate for full statehood for the District of Columbia. We are American citizens. Our families go to war. We pay taxes and we uphold the responsibilities of citizenship. And while this action today is unsettling and unprecedented, I can't say that given some of the rhetoric of the past that we're totally surprised. I can say to DC residents that we will continue to operate our government in a way that makes you proud.
Okay, so based on what she had to say, which obviously we gave you the bottom line to it, it was really, I would say, watered down, subdued. It's not your normal reaction from Democrat leaders, especially people who are mayors and governors, when they write something to target the president. Okay, usually they're a little bit more hyperbolic than she was. And so why that is, I have no idea. Maybe she's not as crazy as some of these other leaders are, because she acknowledges there is a crime problem. But we've also done some work in D.C. So she's kind of walking this fine line, right? And the bottom line to it is she doesn't have a choice, okay? D.C. just happens to be the only area where the president can exercise the authority that he did to mobilize federal authorities in D.C. So it leads to the question, will he actually be able to do this in other cities? We don't know the answer to that yet, but he did suggest that he might do that. Take a look.
And we're going to have the same thing here. But then I'm going to look at New York. in a little while. Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's see. It's going to go pretty quickly. And if we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man. And we have an incompetent governor there. Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business, and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance. You know, you never know what happens. But Pritzker's a gross incompetent guy, thrown out of the family business.
Okay, so now we're going to move to the other part of this entire story, and it's about the reaction, particularly from the mainstream media. And the main talking point that they've all decided to run with is this: it is not dangerous in D.C. today. What's dangerous, in fact, what is the most dangerous day in D.C.'s history was January 6th. That's their talking point. Let's start with Dana Bash. Take a look.
I should note that the most violent moment in recent history in D.C. was January 6th. And it was an attack on the United States Capitol by a lot of people who were doing it in the name of Donald Trump. And it included, the people who were hurt included members of law enforcement.
Okay, so once again, Dana Bash continues to show that even if you have a fancy degree and you've got decades of experience as a so-called journalist, you could still say some ignorant things. The most dangerous time, day, even period in Washington, D.C.'s history is actually two separate events, and I'm going to give them to you right now. Number one is the 1968 riots. Okay, this happened after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., resulted in a brief but intense episode of violence with 13 deaths, over 1,000 injured, and more than 6,100 arrests in just 4 days. The second event took place in the early 1990s. 1991 stands out as the most violent year in Washington, D.C. history due to crack cocaine epidemic. It resulted in almost 500 homicides, okay? And remember, last year was 187, earning D.C. the label of the murder capital of the United States during that time.
I mean, Anna, I have lived in the Washington metropolitan area for my entire life, almost 50 years now. I've lived in the city for 20 years. The most violent moment in my life in Washington, D.C., the greatest cause of a threat, not only physical threat, but bigger threat to the country and certainly to law enforcement officers, was January 6, 2021, when Donald Trump's supporters, his allies, some people who currently work for him, charged into the Capitol, beat cops, screamed profanities at them, yelled, "Kill the cops," said they wanted to hang the vice president of the United States. And Donald Trump's response to that, here in the nation's capital, at the Capitol building, was to pardon everyone who was involved and in some cases rehire them into his government. So watching this play out in the White House briefing room without any mention of the violent crime that was committed on his behalf in Washington, D.C. is a little unusual.
Now, you have to understand what's happening to them internally. See, when they're in front of the cameras, they have to speak a certain way, right? I hope you guys are catching that. See, internally, most of these people are happy about this. You know why? Because they've even had concerns about the crime. But because it's President Trump taking the lead on this, making the decision, oh, they cannot admit that out loud. And what's interesting is even people on CNN had to admit the truth that there is a crime problem, and the PD has been accused of manipulating the numbers. Take a listen to this.
What's striking is that National Democrats are not following Mayor Bowser's lead on this, and that National Democrats have been insisting, just look at the statistics. We have 30-year low, violent crime. Whereas Mayor Bowser is talking about, hey, we need to get 500 more police officers on the streets. We'd like the federal government to help us rebuild our jail. She's talking about some of the reforms she did to make it so accused violent offenders don't get out of jail pre-trial. So there is this disconnect, and I've talked to Democratic strategists today that think that, National Democrats saying, look at the statistics, is sort of a tone-deaf way to react.
And it's very much, isn't this the exact same problem that Democrats had last year? Look at the statistics. We promise you the economy is great, while people are going, it doesn't feel great to me. That feels like a lot of this conversation around crime, that you can point to statistics all day long that say, hey, D.C. is safer this year than it was last year. But do people feel safe? Bottom line, if they don't, they may be more okay with something that would otherwise be considered extraordinary.
And I think Mayor Bowser may also know that there's an ongoing investigation in her police department over the potentially manipulation of those statistics, that there have been a downclassing of some of the crimes, there's been a massaging of the numbers and the reporting in order to fit them more beneficially into the FBI crime stats. So she may know some things that National Democrats are not paying attention to.
Yeah, so that's interesting to hear that on CNN. Now, let's go to MSDNC here really quickly. This is Eddie, and he's just upset. He's angry. As I said earlier in this video, this is the section where people cannot handle what President Trump is doing. Take a look at this clip.
Chris, to be honest with you, I'm trying to hold my temper. I think there's an ongoing argument that he's having in his head with Black Lives Matter. There's an ongoing argument that he's having with the questions around criminal justice reform and police reform. It's interesting that he really doesn't really care about what's actually happening in D.C. on a certain level, because he's not trying to get at the underlying root causes. He's not looking at examples of how to address rising crime rates that doesn't require a form of policing that leads to increased incarcerality and the like. Let's look at what's going on in Baltimore. Let's look at what's happening actually in places like Baltimore and Chicago, right? So part of what we have to do is to understand. And Oakland. We have to understand this, Chris, within the context of Donald Trump's racial politics and within the context of his effort to get Epstein off the front pages. I understand David's point, but when we try to treat this as a rational response, then we lose sight of the actual politics that's being played here. And he's actually trying to give his base red meat to get them off of the Epstein story, and it's on the backs of citizens in Washington, D.C. He's going to undermine the democratic process in the district. And so I understand what David is trying to say, but we need to be clear about what Donald Trump is doing.
Okay, so Eddie is clearly upset. And instead of supporting the president in this decision and hoping that he is successful in bringing crime down to record levels, he goes on this whole idea and tangent about January 6th again, and it's a race issue. And that's the problem with people like him, okay? They look at the world from a victim lens. They look at the world from a view that President Trump is bad and he can't do anything positive. And that is just an unfortunate situation. Now, let's show you the opposite of this, okay? I think you guys will enjoy this. Now, we're staying on MSDNC because somebody actually decided to tell the truth. Take a look.
This way, Rev, it's a starting point. And I'm not somebody who says that lightly. I say that as somebody who has been a D.C. resident for nearly 2 decades. I have seen firsthand what D.C. has gone through post-pandemic, and it has been tough. And though crime may be down right now, it will come right back up because Mayor Muriel Bowser's leadership has failed time and time again. And I have given her a chance. Many people across the city have given her a chance to say, you can do better for us. You can keep our communities safer from violent carjackings that have resulted in deaths on K Street, which is a business hub, death of an Uber driver simply trying to deliver food in Navy Yard. These stick out to me because these aren't isolated incidents. It's just part and parcel with what comes with raising a young family in the nation's capital like I have.
Okay, so that was a Republican strategist, which you don't normally see on MSDNC. But she tells the truth about what's going on there. She lives in D.C., so is she lying? What reasons does she have to lie about this? It's her own personal experience. And it wasn't just her. They also have clips of people who live in the area, once again, responding to the president's announcement today. Here's what they said. Take a look.
I'm just ecstatic. I've been saying that a long time ago. The federal government should take over the D.C. Police Department.
Leroy Thorpe is a native Washingtonian who founded the volunteer group Citizen Organized Patrol Efforts, also known as the Red Hats. They walk the streets of Chinatown doing violence prevention work.
With the mayor being in power so long, I think she's kind of used to how things are going, and I think Donald Trump really wants to clean it up, and I'm all for it.
During this morning's White House press briefing, Attorney General Pam Bondi spoke about one high-profile murder in the district from 2023. That was the case of Reggie Brown, an elderly man with cancer who was beaten and killed on Georgia Avenue by 5 teenage girls, ages 12 to 15. Social media messages revealed in court indicated they did it because they were bored.
No more crime rampant in our beautiful capital. No more teenage girls beating a disabled man to death. No more of that.
Brown's sister Nazia tells News 4 she was glad to see her brother's case got the Trump administration's attention.
I was very happy to hear that. Very happy. He's trying to make a change. He's trying to do something about it and make the city safer.
Nazia says she wants to see harsher punishments for juveniles who commit murder. Right now, they can only be held until they turn 21.
Now, to make matters worse for people who disagree with the president here, you got people on the ground who live in that area, raise their family in that area, saying the mayor hasn't done enough. She's failed. Okay, you got that. 2, you got the crazy stories you just heard that are really tragic. And 3, you know you're going in the wrong direction when both ABC and CNN have people on their network acknowledging that crime is a problem in D.C. Take a look.
We've been talking so much about the numbers, and yeah, usually that's how you play devil's advocate, is you talk about, oh, well, stats say crime is down. However, I can tell you firsthand here in downtown D.C. where we work, right here around our bureau, just in the past 6 months, there were 2 people shot. 1 person died, literally 2 blocks down here from the bureau. It was within the last 2 years that I actually was jumped walking just 2 blocks down from here. And then just this morning, one of my coworkers said her car was stolen a block away from the bureau. So we can talk about the numbers going down, but crime is happening every single day because we're all experiencing it firsthand while working and living down here.
Okay, wow. You don't see that often from ABC. Now, of course, David Muir and the rest of them who are on prime time are not going to repeat what she just said. She's literally voicing her own personal experience. And it'd be interesting if they finally tell the truth, but I don't think they will. And guys, no one should have to experience that in the nation's capital, let alone in larger cities in America. But this is the reality we find ourselves in, and it doesn't mean we can't do anything about it, which is why the president has a can-do attitude. Let's figure it out. Let's find a way. Let's exercise every single federal resource we have to getting this under control. And now we have this other clip for you to see, which shows you the gaslighting that occurred in the police department because they were going out to neighborhoods trying to convince people that, no, everything's fine and the crime is low. Take a look at this.
From drug deals
Had a shooting here 2 days ago
to bullets flying not far from where kids were playing at the Kennedy Rec Center.
What can we do to make sure that it's safe for the kids?
Neighbors from the Shaw, Mount Vernon Square, and Mount Vernon Triangle neighborhoods say they're fed up.
In the past 4 weeks, we've had 3 shootings.
Stephen McCarty is the ANC for the area. He organized this week's public safety walk.
We need to bring everyone together because this is happening here.
On hand to hear their concerns, D.C. Police 3rd District Commander Sean Connors.
And I can tell you right now, we have less shootings here than we had at this point last year.
He told them that by the numbers, crime is down. In fact, D.C. Police say crime is down across the entire city.
Does anyone here actually think that?
But if you ask these D.C. neighbors,
it shows such a lack and disconnect between what you're trying to sell versus what we're experiencing.
Their perception, how they feel, is unsafe.
If they're able to do that, then I think there's no problem with that because there are pockets in D.C. that are significantly out of control. We have school zones that are drug-infested neighborhoods.
Mixed reaction from the community, but they all agree on one thing. Something must be done to decrease crime.
Maybe once. Let's give the president the opportunity to prove that his way of doing things can yield results. If it doesn't in the end, then you guys can cry all you want and say it doesn't work. But we do know this for a fact. Whatever they've tried up to this point doesn't work. Okay, so that's the interesting thing about all the criticism I always hear every day from Democrats about President Trump is like, hey, you guys are criticizing him, but you haven't offered an alternative solution that has proven to work. You keep saying, let's go back to the way we were doing things under Joe Biden. We know that doesn't work. So again, I want the president to be successful. I'm sure you do, because if he is, that means the people in the DC area are successful, they're safe. And if it all works, they can duplicate this process in other cities and other states. And of course, I'm sure there are some cons to this. There may be some drawbacks, but we're not even at that place yet to even debate that. Let's see where this actually goes. And so now I want to get your guys' answers in the comment section below to this entire story today. 1, do you agree with the president for making this move, mobilizing the National Guard, federal authorities to assist the local PD in cracking down on crime? 2, what is your reaction to the claim that Democrats continue to make that the most violent day in DC was January 6th. And finally, what's your reaction to people who are on the left calling out the crime and admitting that there is a problem? Just give me all of your reactions in the comment section below. All right, in our next video, JB Pritzker and Kathy Hochul both get humiliated on TV after they were confronted of being guilty at the very thing they accused Texas of doing, which is gerrymandering. If you missed it on that video, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.